I'm Lian for Kit Guru, and this large dual chamber case is the Lian PC-O9WX. 09 letter 09, not 09. So if you're confused and you see the review on Kit Guru, O for orange 9. WX means it's black with this red Lian logo on the front. There is also a version WRX, the R being for red because that's got some more red highlights going on. But fundamentally, it's the same case, it's just slightly cosmetically different. So I saw this case at Computex this year 2016 and was blown away by the glass aluminium loveliness because it just looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I've waited a bit to get my hands on the sample and it's taken me a time to build this PC. It's been hard work, there's no two ways about it. Before I shut it down and give you a proper look inside, the lighting that's in this case comes with the Lian. There are 3 LED strips, there's a control unit in there, and on the rear there are 3 rotary knobs, one for R, one for G and one for B. So if I reach around the back and twiddle that up and down, and that up and down, and that up and down, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. It's nowhere near as sophisticated or subtle as a proper colour wheel piece of software, such as you get with, well, all manner of hardware these days. So that's what the lighting is about. I'll show you more about the actual how it works, but that's what it looks like when it's in action. I'm going to shut the power down, pull off the glass and give you a good look inside. Now you might reasonably assume that building a PC into a large case is a doddle. You've got plenty of space, you've bung in the components, it works. To a certain extent this is true. Had I simply put a motherboard in here along with the graphics card and put an air cooler on the thing, I'm sure it would have been as straightforward can be, but also fairly pointless because then you've got a hefty great big PC with all that glass showing off what? So I've done a custom loop. And the hardware is Intel Core i7-5820K on an ASRock X99, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Teichi motherboard. Corsair LPX DDR4 memory, a pair of EVGA GTX 980 graphics cards, and they've got EK blocks on them, and then the rest of the loop is all alpha cool. So we've got a 360 ST30 radiator here, behind it, which you can't see, I've put some EK Varda fans. Up in the roof I've got 3 Lian fans which started life here and I've transposed them, and then we've got an alpha cool XP3 CPU block, and then that pump and reservoir there, it looks like a D5 but it's actually a VP755, which is a new alpha cool thing, looks D5-esque, a little bit smaller, works slightly differently. And then Mayhem's pastel purple coolant. As you will also see around the back, we have a Seasonic Prime titanium power supply. I can't put this thing on the turntable and whiz it around because the feet are massively spaced, so I'll just lug it around in a few moments. The pump is one of the illustrations of what a pain in the neck this case is to work with. Because you get this pump mount here, which is right in this corner, and it's got a couple of 4 screws actually on the bottom, 4 tiny little screws that secure it to the base of the chassis. And I wanted therefore to use it to put the pump on it, logically. And I thought, righty-ho, how do I get it up so I can get the pump on it and nut and bolt it in place? To remove that, I had to take off the filter housing on the bottom, which is actually a piece of steel work. It has a few screws along the length of it. It's a full-length filter, which is a good thing. And remove the filter housing to give me access to these screws, to remove the screws, to take off the pump mount, to attach my pump to put it back in place, and then reversed and then put the filter housing back in place. Straightforward enough, a bit boring. The thing is that that pump doesn't want to go on there. I had to kind of fiddle to get the holes to line up because it's really for a DDC rather than a D5, and as I say, this isn't quite a D5 but it's similar. So that wasn't great. But the thing is, the pump location obviously is here. Logically you're going to put your reservoir on top. You could hide the reservoir elsewhere, but it's tricky. There's a lot of glass around here, you could hide it around the back, tricky. So pump res unit combined. The thing is, the clips that you generally use to sort of stabilize the reservoir, if it's a vertical res, glass here, it's glass there. It's totally impossible, so I had to remove the things, which is not entirely satisfactory, not the end of the world, but I'm using the location that Lian has given me for a pump. and yet they've given me no mechanism for supporting the reservoir. I don't like that. Getting in there was also awkward. As it happens, and this is a sort of a slight complaint, the 360, rather the full length filter, is the same filter that goes in the top. There must have been some sort of muck up with my sample because the housing's there but there's no filter in it, so actually the top is unfiltered. But that's clearly just one of those things. Clearly it ought to come with a filter. So the 3120 fans that live here, again photos on KitGuru of the bare case. The idea is that air is sucked from the hot side of the PC into the rear chamber and then expelled through some ventilation around here. But the nature of the aluminium chassis means that you only have mounts for the 120 fans. You can't put 140s in their place. You'd think you could have two 140s instead of three 120s. Can't be done. There simply isn't the physical space in this plane to do that. So I put a 360 radiator on there. There's mention about in the installation guide, which is just this piece of paper here. That's all you get, and it's mono printing, no picture, no colour, which is daft. Anyway, that's printed from the web, so it's exactly the same. And frankly, for a high-end case, it's not the greatest guide for something that's not entirely conventional, but still. But they mention in there that there's a sort of an adapter plate if you want to mount a radiator to the chassis. Now I put the fan, I left these EK Vada fans are in the same location as the stock fans, and I mounted the rad there, so they're pulling through it. I haven't needed an adapter. I don't think you do need an adapter, but they definitely refer to an adapter, so that's confusing. So in with the bits of the cooling system, and I think the end result looks pretty nifty, albeit certain aspects of it are tight for space. Installing the lighting, for example, was a little bit fiddly because on the rear, and the rear panel is a simple pull job, and I'll turn this around. And there we go. And here we have the Seasonic power supply. The lighting control unit is behind the power supply. As you can see, the three, or as I told you, rather, the three control knobs for the lighting are here on the rear, next to the power supply. The light control unit's hidden away, which means you have to connect up the lights relatively early in the build before so you can get them in, and then you have to decide where you're going to stick. It's all okay, it works out fine. The end result looks really nifty, but the details drive me to distraction. Also, cable management. These wave my little fingers through this whole, well, actually you can't see them because of this unit in the way there. There are 4 cable management plates which you have to actually detach. They're each held in place with 2 screws. So if you want to open up those holes, rather than just having holes with grommets in, they've actually covered them off and you have to uncover them, which is peculiar. Drive mounts. Right, so if I undo these 4 thumb screws here and then lift this unit and pull it away, and you'll see I used it for partly for tidying away the cables, that's where your drives go. No caddies, although I wouldn't be shocked if some Bright Spark hasn't got some sort of adapter plates on the market, but these accommodate 3.5-inch drives, 6 of them, one above the other, and then screws in from the side. 2 fans to drive air through or draw air through the drive cage, and you can mount a 2.5 on the top and a 2.5 on the bottom. So if you simply want to power your system by SSD, all this space here is utterly useless unless you get a bit crude and simply slap your SSD on the side. And we know SSDs will tolerate all sorts of abuse when you mount the things, but it doesn't look really right. So those are the SSD mounts. There are no other SSD mounts. Now I've sort of cheated a little bit, and on the ASRock I've gone for an M.2 Kingston SSD, so I haven't actually used the drive mounts whatsoever. But it's 2016. The idea I want to use up to 6 3.5 drives, but SSDs, you know, it's a bit of a novel. I'm really baffled by that. Baffled. Cable management, as you can see, these cables, I've kind of cable tied them together. Now this is obviously the messy half and it's all covered, but nonetheless, when you take the cover off, it looks a bit crude. You do get in the pack of accessories some self-adhesive sort of cable saddles, 2 of them actually, 2, there you go, like so. But seems like a bit of an afterthought. The fact that this is out of sight, you know, at some point you're going to pull off the side panel and it should look better than that, I feel. So the radiator around this side, or indeed the 3 stock fans, exhaust here, and then the air blows through. And this is the filtered exhaust here, which sits at the bottom. So the air gets out and the cooling works perfectly well, and of course air can get out of the top. But it doesn't seem particularly well designed. It's just curious. The temperatures when I was running this, it idled at actually very few degrees above ambient. The 5820K is a champ like that, and I haven't got the loaded temps. They were really low. 50 from memory, maybe even less than that. The 5820K and the GTX 980s in this massive chassis, all this metal, it actually cooled better than I expected. So as a gaming machine, it worked perfectly well, but getting to the stage of having the built thing was aggro. It's the only way I can describe it. Anyway, let me just turn it around so you can see the pretty side again. And I'm also going to offer you some advice, which is if you're considering building the system and you're dealing with those 2 tempered glass panels, for goodness sake, get yourself some gloves, because the fingerprints I've had to clean off those are just legion. Anyway, here's the thing. The price of this case is £390. If you want the red and black version, it's £400, which is just a monumental sum of money. And there's a lot of metal work in it. The glass, we've seen so many cases of glass these days that I can't get hugely excited by the cost of glass, because people are including glass now on £80 cases. So put the glass to one side, it's good for looks in terms of money. Aluminium, yeah, Lian are champs for aluminium. The construction of this case, the metalwork is top notch. The design, on the other hand, not so good. Overall, as a build, this was huge work. I think it looks good in the end. The details, the use of the space, such a big case, and yet it's been done so inefficiently, drives me to tears. So overall, I'm disappointed. I'm very pleased by the build result, but the work involved to get there was, oh. Anyway, if you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. If you want more videos from Kit Guru, click to subscribe. I'm Leo Waldock. This is Lian, the PC-O9WX.